What's good, y'all? It's your boy Brandon Leake here with the Poets and Politics podcast, joined in with a special guest, my man Aaron T.
Hey.
And we got our recurring host of the show.
My name is Andy S.
And I'm Stacy G.
Show today, what we're gonna be diving into is our president got impeached.
A while ago.
Yeah, like a whole month ago, and somehow he showed back up and still had a job the next day. So we're gonna talk about what all that means, and then is World War III actually going down, and should we be worried about being enlisted? I'm over 26, so that's not necessarily a problem for me.
Same.
So
out here, safety in age.
But yeah, so like let's talk about it. I'm sorry if I offend because I have a lot of friends who I went to college with who voted for Trump, but I don't like the man. Nor do I. So can I do a quick rant?
Yeah.
Real quick? All right.
Please.
So I'm a Christian. I love Jesus with all my heart and soul, and one of the biggest things that Trump ended up putting himself on the platform for was trying to vie the conventional white Christian vote in middle America. And it frustrated the crap out of me because I'm like, if you look at this man's track record from all of his business handlings to the way that he treats people, all the videos that surfaced and popped up out of nowhere about him grabbing people by the you-know-whats, about him talking about like all of his molestation and rape charges that he's paid money to get rid of, all of these different things. Not saying that God doesn't love the people who are flawed and who are most certainly, unredeemable, because humanity is unredeemable under the Christian context. But this man is unrepentant about any of these things. This man is very blatantly disregarding all of his issues and is extremely prideful. And that is not the mark of a man who I want to lead not only this nation, but to claim to lead this nation from the perspective of somebody who loves Jesus.
Can I say this briefly? How can you expect someone who literally was born into this nation with ample amounts of privilege to be repentant about anything that they have to say or do?
I will say this. Somebody who understands a good context of who Jesus was and is should be able to do that. Because here's the thing.
I don't think his privilege taught him that.
We are to be reborn in the gracious mindset of somebody who looks at the world and says, only reason why I am worth my salt is from the work of the cross. And due to that, I'm going to love and care for all people, whether or not they different religion, different sexualities, different lifestyles, whatever, to say, I love you the same way that Jesus loved me, and Jesus loved me enough to die for me. So in that regard, I'm going to talk about this man in the vein of still showing him care and respect, because that's what I'm supposed to do as a human being. But I'm going to look at his decision making and his character as a person and say he's an orange idiot. He's an orange idiot, in which I am extremely frustrated is still my president. But somehow he got impeached and is still showing up the job the next day. So Trump got impeached. My spiel is done, and social media went ablaze. Everybody's sharing, yo, Bill Clinton 2.0, everything's going down, and all this stuff. So how are we feeling? Do we feel like this was going to be an inevitable thing? Did we think that this was never going to happen? Do we think that he's ever actually going to walk out of office? And also, do you guys believe the militia is actually going to come for his defense? Because I know a lot of people who are afraid that, like, yo, middle America whites who out there in they bunkers gonna come out with all these guns that they've been stockpiling to try and come start Civil War II to keep this man in office.
There's nothing waiting our country that deep for Civil War II to pop off.
Yeah.
Civil War I was an economic war. Yes, we have economic issues in the U.S. However, the economic issues don't split the country right now, like the original Civil War.
Keeping it 100, I mean, over 60% of Trump's base was poor white folk.
Yeah.
Poor white folk. And guess what? 60% of people who didn't vote for him is just as poor.
Minorities.
So that's why I'm saying I don't feel like our nation is split economically in that manner. So I don't think we'll have that Civil War 2.0. However, this impeachment was purely political based on the Democrats because why? They want power. And election is coming up at the end of this year. Yeah. So with election coming up at the end of this year, you impeach him, you look at Nixon. Did he get a second term after he got impeached? No. Clinton, that when he got impeached, he didn't get a second term. It was in his second term. So like they're trying to figure out ways to aid in the American thought process to say, look, we've tried to get him out of here.
I mean, part of the reason Hillary
Help
didn't
us,
win,
voters.
like part of the reason Hillary didn't win was off the back of Bill Clinton being impeached.
And on top of that, her email situation. Yeah. But hey, we're not going to go in that because who freaking knows?
And the fact that she elected to whipping Nene on the Ellen DeGeneres show.
And have hot sauce in her bag.
She both did and didn't do so much shit. Like, I mean, she didn't go to like Michigan. She didn't go to like Ohio. I'm like, are you dumb?
She didn't actually try to help in Flint.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I mean, I'm like, yo.
But
so I'm not going to say his name. I'm just going to give him a number, 45, because I don't think that doesn't really respect the dignity of like just of how much damage he's done to this country and like not just like socially and politically, but like also like economically, like our climate, like our country, like this planet's on fire, and he's just like, let's pull out of the climate alliance, you know, like not in France, like he doesn't want to participate in making our world a more livable place, you know, for our future. And that really deeply affects me because it's like long term, like we're gonna pass this planet on to our kids. Like, what are we passing on? You know, like
right.
And I mean, like, so Trump. I'm gonna go back to what you were talking about, where we have the Republican Party that has been co-opted by Christian movements, they have branded themselves as like, if you are Christian,
the do-gooder.
You are Republican.
The do-gooder.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened because like.
Historically, they never have been.
Yes. Yeah.
I will say this.
Historically, neither party has been. Yeah. Let's just keep it 100.
Republicans because actually, if you look historically at politics, black people and the left, what is currently the left, were the Republicans. Mm-hmm. And then it switched. Don't give me a year. Don't get me to line about no damn year. I don't know. But then it switched, right?
Yeah.
And supposedly the Democratic ideology was supposed to be for the left side of our country, and the right was supposed to
more
be
progressive, more left-leaning, more liberal, more like, forward-thinking.
Forward-thinking. And then the right would be our Republicans who are kind of like tied to the old ways, who who are generally coming out of the Bible Belt of our country, which is the South. And so with that whole switch or whatever, I find it that it's not necessarily a game of who's actually the more of a do-gooder. It's more of how many people can we get to say we are do-gooders, and then go from there.
I'm going to go back to him because I know you're talking, but I don't even like the term do-gooder because these people don't necessarily have to do good. They just have to promote the concept of being a believer in Jesus Christ
That's why I use the term do-gooders, because I don't believe a actual Christian is someone who's a do-gooder, right? And I'm saying do-gooder as in somebody who's always trying to do the right thing, right? For real Christian is going to fuck up, do some wrongs, because God made us in a way that we're not perfect. Mm-hmm. We're going to mess up. The thing is, you're supposed to learn the lesson, not recommit that sin or that mistake.
I guess I say, instead of saying do-gooder, say gooder. Because they say a lot of good things, quote unquote. They say all of the things that, quote unquote, align with the concept of what, like, hard stance on abortion, hard stance on like all of these particular issues that I'm never actually going to produce legislation on. Like, just
and if I do produce legislation on it, it's to the detriment of the people that I'm producing the legislation for.
Well, I mean, that's the problem with our politics in general and every side of things. And people get upset when I point out the fact that, like, yeah, Democrats do it too, but like Democrats do it too.
Democrats do it.
By everybody in our higher government.
Yeah.
Be independent.
Even the independents, like, honestly, like, I don't think we should have political parties at all in our nation.
No, it's like
Nor
the problem
an
is it's
electoral
become
college.
a game of football. And it's, I'm a Republican, rah, 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 hell yeah. We don't think about it. I got to go to the California Democratic Convention, and I saw people who would mindlessly just chant for their person. I heard Dr. Ed, and they would mindlessly go about it. And the moment that someone else would chant for their person, it would be this like anger and competition, and it's not even a dialogue
that sounds like a
between
football game
people
for real.
who already agree with each other.
Let's go, Kobe. Basketball, too. That's a sporting event, yeah.
Yeah, it's a sporting event. Like, that's what we've turned it into. And the problem with that is when it comes to like the Republican Party, you have the Christian right, right? So they a lot of people in churches don't practice Christianity from a place of love. They don't understand what Christianity is actually trying to say. It can become a form of control. And that's the problem with the nation, is that you have someone like Donald Trump who gets the favor of people who are in positions of leadership within the church by saying the things that they want to hear and pushing the points that they want, like abortion. And then from there, they say, you need to vote for Trump. If you're a good Christian, you vote for Trump.
And without question. Because, like, one thing that's
Blind
very
faith.
interesting about this is you've never heard anybody question whether or not he actually believes in his faith.
Yeah.
Yet Barack Obama, who,
His nationality was questioned.
like,
His
where he was
faith was
born.
questioned. That's why I said nationality
like,
was questioned. His faith.
And I'm just gonna stick to the faith aspect. They're like, is he actually Christian? Like, does he
Yeah.
actually believe these things? I mean, look at his last name. Like, does he like is he
Last
a
name
Muslim
does-
sleeper
middle
agent?
name.
You know what I mean? Like all of these things. It's like, well, none of you guys ever looked at the character of the man in question,
Right.
whether or not he was doing these things. And everybody loves to and when I say everybody, I mean, and I'm
Media.
okay. So I realize I said something in a very unloving manner. I'm not going to call him an orange idiot because I would not like for anybody else to refer to me in such a way, despite the fact that he may
he's
earn
an
the
orange
title.
idiot.
But what I'm going to say is he is a person who has a very bad tan and who has made very poor choices in terms of the way that he's elected to carry himself. But when it comes, there are a lot of very malintended white people and even good-intended white people who are very ignorant in terms of their experiences with people of color, in terms of their experiences with minorities, who end up looking at these situations and end up saying things like, "What would Dr. King do?" Not realizing that y'all killed the man anyway.
Right.
Right? And also in that same regards, like they'll spew all these things and be like, yo, like, I'm just trying to judge somebody by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. That's why I'm colorblind, sort of a concept. But we'll
Colorblind is
never
not a
do that
concept in
same
this country.
assessment for people from your own culture.
Right.
And being able to say, like, yo, if I'm going to ignore his color, let me then look at his character. And what about his character has displayed any of the things that I say that I value?
Yeah. And
And-
by the way, 45 was actually a Democratic voter initially. Like,
Yes.
he's running on the Republican platform right now, but previously he was definitely like a Democratic. He backed Democratic candidates, like historically.
Historically, like
Yeah.
if you look at the 80s, the Clintons, right? Look, the 80s when the Clintons were running and all of that stuff, like he was running full-blown campaign ads in the New York Times.
Yep.
Like for the Clintons,
sure.
as well as anything that the Clintons were pushing,
Yeah.
like the enhancement of the war on crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, like, but we also have to address the other end of the discussion, which is part of the problem is that people don't vote.
Factual.
And this is, it's a line from Nietzsche. He says, a democracy, what is it? It's democracy falls apart when people give in to nihilism. It's something to that point. And we have so many people who are disenfranchised with the idea of democracy even working in the first place. And they want things to change, but the problem is, unless you're willing to grab a gun and start this whole nation over that way, there's really only one way to affect change. You have to vote for the people that you want in office. Part of the reason why we have so many Democrats, Republicans, and independents in office who don't actually feed into our needs is because we don't vote, and we just vote along party lines.
And we don't hold folks accountable. We don't get folks out of office when they're not doing what they want to do. And speaking about getting people out of office, when we talking about this impeachment, people assumed that, oh, he's impeached.
He's gone.
That means he's out of here.
No.
It's like,
wait, can I just, before you go into the impeachment and stuff, I get really bothered by the fact that it was like, oh, Biden's son, he went after Biden's son. It wasn't the fact that he was like so slanderous. It wasn't the fact that he had like committed so much business fraud. It wasn't the fact that like he pulled out of the climate accord. It wasn't the fact that he was like denying all of these like dialogues that he was trying to start with other nations, right? It was the fact that he went after Biden's son.
The way he went after Biden's son and the nation in which he kind of colluded with. Like one thing about American history, like at least after World War II, if you do anything dealing with Russians and like that side of the nation, like that's not China or Japan, like you're bound to get like, hey, bruh, we don't like you now.
Yeah,
like you're bound to get that situation.
We've done a great job vilifying Russia.
We vilified Russia to like Rocky vilified him,
right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't any of the work that he did. Yeah. And it wasn't any of the work that he, like the fact that there was colluding with Russia, right? It wasn't like the, internal espionage. He was like committing, right? It was Biden's son. You know
what the trip is? I rewatched Rocky IV, and I looked at it, and I was like, he was just a guy who was fighting, and they just told him to fight. He's a boxer, and he just kept going until the ref told him to stop.
Oh, wow.
He's not really a villain.
He's not a villain.
He just did his job.
He did his job, but he's the person who does the job.
Callous.
Yeah.
Callous, exactly. Yeah. But he's the person who does his job. Them stupid long questionnaires you get right before you fill out a job, and it'd be like, if the boss told you to do X, Y, Z, and your morals did not agree with X, Y, Z, would you still do it? He was the person that said yes.
I will say though, you look at the setup to that boxing match with Apollo Creed. Look how much of a fucking asshole Apollo Creed was. They pitched it like an exhibition. It's gonna be no big deal. He comes out with the fireworks. James Brown, living in America. Brought out the whole crowd to boo him.
I think Stacy and I are both here like, I've never seen the movie.
I don't mean to take
never seen Rocky? No, but
we'll start up a movie podcast.
But like, real talk, if you look at Trump's current politics in office and stuff like that, movies like Rocky IV, was it Rocky IV or 3?
It was 4.
4. Yeah. So movies like Rocky IV, Creed 2, because he ended up going back to Russia and fighting dude's son. Movies like anything dealing with terrorism in America, like
the bad guy's always
going
Russian.
to Iran. The bad guy's either Russian or Muslim, like one or the other. So
Russians are like the only like pale skinned folks who end up becoming villains outside of life.
Facts. Like every movie you
besides
put the
Asians can also get that treatment.
They get that as like fighting movies, but yes, they get that treatment as well. But like that, like ties to like the in depth. Like how you were saying, like the hatred of man that we have in our current state of politics with him in office. Like it constantly adds to it. Like if you constantly look historically at our country, we vilify those that our government says is bad. Like straight up, like our movies are nationalistic in a sense that our people feed into it. Yeah. Like, although I talk smack about Rocky IV and Creed 2, I was like, yeah, whoop that Russian's ass. Like legit. Like, especially on Creed 2, because it was like, this is your daddy you defended.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to talk about, like, impeachment and what is really an ineffective point at this point, because all that Dianne Feinstein could do is hold on to the articles of impeachment and not submit it to the Senate, because we know how it's going to go.
Because the Senate is run by the Republicans.
And at what point do we question the very construction of democracy, the way we express it? Like, it's been said so many times, our forefathers made this to be changed. Mm-hmm. The problem is it's been 250 some odd years, and nobody's even questioned it.
Yeah, that's it's one of those things where it's like, and once again, I'm gonna lean back into my Christian brothers and sisters on the right, where it's like they look at the Declaration of Independence as scripture, and it's like, well, no, like it's a fallible document. Like we believe that the Bible is ordained by God, like divinely. Yeah. That's not the same. For our written laws. Like this is something that's like, hey, when we're talking about like even the Second Amendment right to bear arms, you don't see me out here trying to purchase a drone to be able to do airstrikes. Like if the government really wanted to go to war with its people, we would not survive. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can argue like, oh, I want my AK-47s, my AR-15s, like I want all that. Be like, well, cool. Like we don't even fight ground war like that anymore. Like,
facts.
Like we drop bombs, we fly away, and we do that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then we bring people in there after we destroy everything to be able to
fix
then
the problem.
Yeah. But no, like when it comes to the impeachment, I want to then like coattail this into our next subject. Man, Trump did a whole lot of talking about Obama's going to be starting a war with Iran to help get him elected for another term.
Yeah.
He was telling us his plan, but trying to put the blame on the former.
It's coming up very quickly, and now all of a sudden we got folks who scared about a potential World War III. Now I'm gonna break down a little bit of history with this, in terms of the fact that this is not new. U.S. and Iran relations have been going south for quite some time because
they've been south. Like it's not going.
What president was in office during Desert Storm?
Was it Bush Sr.?
It was either Bush Sr. or Clinton.
And it's always been a matter of the fact that the U.S. has looked at themselves as a Superman figure to go to other places say, hey, yo, let us come fix your country. In exchange, we take all of your viable resources to be able to now make money off of you, and then we'll put we'll put our industries there. That's how you end up seeing McDonald's and Walmarts and Targets and all this other stuff. Like,
oh man, our corporate world is a whole other army that we have, and it's not recognized.
You feel me? Like the money that Walmarts and these places put behind like these government initiatives that'll inevitably get them contracts to be able to put these places on army bases and non-army bases all around the world. And then us going there, of course, I mean, like, you know, Dave Chappelle did the whole skit, be like, oh, what you talking about?
That's actually,
you cooking?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because like we have been doing this for like decades, and I actually was listening to a podcast called Thorough Line, and it's on NPR, and it's basically like how did we get to where we are, and basically like I have an article pulled up here from NPR, and it says it started back in 1953. Like the United States, the CIA, they went into Iran and like destabilized their democracy. The leader who was actually pushing for economic reform and social change and progression was actually assassinated by U.S. forces.
What was his name?
Yeah, Mohammed Mossadegh. Yeah, like he was one of those beloved figures who truly loved his country to the point where he was willing to work for the people, right? Like he was bringing about great reform by like saying like, hey, Great Britain, you own our oil fields, we're gonna own our oil fields now, which is, you know, that's what a government's supposed to do. The government's supposed to be for the people.
And it's so funny to me because like Americans get, and also I want to stop using this term Americans, and
United Statesians.
Government.
Yes, United States citizens. Because if a Mexican were to show up to the border and be like, "Are you an American citizen?" Be like,
"No."
Yes, I'm a North American citizen. Like,
of course, but once you cross that line, that Rio Grande or whatever it is, like right here at with Baja, Mexico, right there, like you're not. No.
You know what I mean? Like
you're an alien to this country.
Well,
if you want to put it in Trump's terms.
And you look at just like what we do to Iran, to the whole Middle East. It's like during each decade, there's at least one point where we overtly go in, ruin a bunch of shit just to destabilize it so that we can have control over it. Like we tried to put in our own puppet president in Iraq.
Yeah.
the last time we went, and they rejected the president.
Bush Jr.
Yeah.
He
And
couldn't even tell you that Africa was a continent or a country, but we put his ass in office.
that's a whole other side rant about like there should be an IQ, not an IQ, there should be an intelligence test of some sort.
Facts.
Just like, do you understand the world? But what was I
Talking about
saying?
foreign relations.
Yeah, foreign relations. So we go in, we destabilize the area for the sake of our resources, but we never actually take it over, because if we actually took it over and made it like a territory, we would be officially the new empire, undeniably.
Yeah.
And
We
the
would be
rest of the world-
colonizing locations.
Yeah.
Time out. Have we not stopped doing that? Because, like, think about it like this. Like,
Yeah.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. But, like, if you just think about the course of American history,
Yeah.
America was a colony under the British Empire. What was the phrase at that time? The sun will never set on the British Empire. They believed in a concept of manifest destiny.
Yep.
So, what did they do? They expanded across how big is America? Is the United States? Like, it's a legit continent. One ocean to ocean.
Yeah.
They expanded all the way across and then said, hey, we're going to go north. We're going to go a little bit south. We're going to go into them islands over there. We're going to go cross this way. We're going to do this. So, like, the British Empire, like, yes, we're not British anymore, but it's still never said.
And this is actually a point to talk about everything that you guys have been talking about in regards to like the destabilization, the manifest destiny, everything to that regard. I think I'm losing my train of thought with this. Go ahead, chime in.
Yeah, can I just make a point?
Go
Real
for
quick?
it. Go for it,
So
yes.
my point by saying all that is we've rebranded what colonization is.
Yep.
That's our whole corporate structure with how we take over a country, a smaller country, and then we force it to basically give into our resource demands.
Look at Indonesia.
Yeah, Indonesia. I mean, there's spots all over
Japan.
Africa. There's spots all over, Southern Asia, in Asia itself.
Oh, I got my point.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like we get into this concept of patriotism, right? And everybody's like America, God and country, like these sorts of concepts, right? And I'm not gonna say everybody. There's a particular brand of people that is God and country, America, and there's a whole thing. I'm leading a Bible study on the concept of God and country when nationalism and theology intersect and become horribly wrong.
Honestly, in my opinion, when they intersect, they do become horribly wrong, at least in this nation.
I think holistically, I mean, you can't be nationalistic at the same time while caring about Jesus, because Jesus went against his entire nation half the time.
Yeah.
But
he was for man, not for his nation.
but no, when we start talking about patriotism, it's like they're so foreign to the idea that somebody else would be just as patriotic about their country as they are for their country. It's like, oh hey, like they were bombing U.S. citizens. And it's like, well, the U.S. citizens were coming and doing havoc inside of their own country and inevitably killing their citizens. What do you expect them to do? Like, and I'm not defending the death or killing of anybody, because that's not what I'm advocating for. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to be patriotic to the sense of like, what would we do reasonably if Iran sent soldiers here to some Hobuck town in Nebraska?
They sent them to
right?
Stockton. It's not even Hobuck town in Nebraska. They sent troops to Stockton.
And started trying to like navigate how our government should be working, start destabilizing businesses, taking over the PG&E circuits, those sorts of things. We would declare that an immediate state of war.
Right.
And then be like, oh, hey, guess what? Kill everybody there and nuke the country.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as that happens.
Pearl Harbor, Japan. Boom. Case in point.
like that's exactly how we think about it. But then we get so like, why are you guys? We're the good guys. Like, we're trying to bring positivity
You get
to
shocked.
your country.
You get
We're
so
not the
shocked
good
by
guys,
it.
though. Like, that's my thing.
Yeah.
Like, America tries to paint itself as the good guys. We're humanitarian. We're this and we're that and the third. If you're freaking humanitarian, fix the shit on your nation first and then go abroad.
Yeah.
And not only that, but be humble enough to step into a country. Because, like, for instance, I got a whole lot of Christian references today. Like, I went to a Christian university, Simpson University, and they were known for being the gateway to world missions. What we did was we sent out hundreds of students every year to go do missions work around the world. And I was like, this is such a beautiful concept. But question, are you going there to reform their behavior, or are you going there to show them that you can worship Jesus in the same way that you do everything else that you do? Yeah. Like in the way that you dance, in the way that you sing, or are you trying to teach them your songs? Are you trying to teach them your dances? Yeah. And that was a part of the reform that I helped bring to our missions teams. Wow. Where I was like, hey, yo, guess what? Like look at what Paul did. Paul showed up and looked at a statue, and he was like, that unknown God that you have there, that's Yahweh. Uh-huh. Worship that God in the same way that you already worship him, and then begin to learn the ways that God would like you to love on him in that regard, right? Wow. Like that is a concept that we need to have when we step into other countries, to be able to say like, hey, we're here to help. What do you need? Do you need our help? Do you need our help? Do you expect, or do you need me? Like it's. I still can't get the image out of my head of this man stepping into. I think it was, what nation got hit with a huge hurricane?
Puerto Rico.
Was it Puerto Rico? I'm just thinking about.
They just got hit with an earthquake too. So
I'm just thinking about when he had paper towels and he was shooting
Puerto
them
Rico.
Like baskets.
Yep,
Puerto Rico.
Like to the people, I'm like, what is this paper towel gonna do for a whole house that got destroyed? Right. Like, I ain't getting grease out my chicken right now. It's not like I'm wiping up a little wet stain. Like, no, like what are we doing?
But to your point, I like to just beg the question: like, do you expect a nation or leaders who themselves are morally corrupt, probably have never actually opened up the Bible, read it, understood what stories the Bible were saying, right? Or in no notion looked at any religious text, particularly, in depth, to like understand those concepts that those religious texts are talking about and move forward. Like, I don't think, like, currently we have I currently don't think we have people in office or representing us that actually read religious text in that notion to where they're trying to understand.
Because I think Pence most certainly reads the Bible daily. I just think that Pence reads the Bible from the perspective of somebody who's like, oh,
the devil reads the Bible too, though, and that's the thing. And this is why I asked the question, because like, even though you have people in office like Pence who may read the every day, right? Probably got an app, the whole bottle of wax. But then you also got people who, in my opinion, I don't think Trump reads the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't think
but
Trump
he runs
reads.
the platform.
I don't believe Trump reads. But
he runs on the platform that he does. On the Christian right, like on the fact that he's like, oh, he's like a man for the people, or he's like going to appeal to like the Christian sensibility or whatever, right?
Because in all honesty, if you're truly for the people, you're not for the construction, at least the American construction of religion. You're just not for it if you're really a man of the people.
But this all gets back to the point of who are we electing and why are we electing them in the first place? And if we had people who actually showed up to the polls, our voter turnout is so damn low. Yeah. Even on a presidential year.
More people like vote for television shows.
Yeah. People have become apathetic to the idea of democracy.
And the thing is, the left has become apathetic to the idea of democracy. The engaged Christian right, who is told this is important, this is the imperative of God, shows up to the polls.
And to be honest with you, this is actually, and I'm gonna, it's super funny because like, and actually one of our mutual friends is on this same tip, and I don't necessarily agree with this concept. There's a lot of people who are like taking this, hey, I'm not going to birth children into this world because of like climate change and things of that nature, right? Which I'm not going to tell nobody what to do with their body. Like, you do what you do. But I posed the question. I was like, but you realize that the people who don't believe in these concepts are going to be producing children who are then going to become voters, who are then going to further ruin the world that these other people are then going to have to embody.
That's why I have
versus us being able to create a generation of people who we breed mindfulness into that same regard. And I think it's the same thing as we're talking about with this voter apathy. Because like with black folks, everybody tries to petition the idea of like, yo, like we've had people who have died for you to have the right to be able to vote, which I think is the wrong way to go about the concept. Though
Don't tell me somebody died for me to vote, bro, because I'm probably not. It's not like me personally. I'm a voter, but like I remember that concept. Like my aunties be like, they died for you to vote. Get your ass up on your 18th and go vote. Like legit. Like, that's how my auntie came at me, right? And honest to God, like, that turned me off. Like, it shouldn't be that somebody died for me to vote in order for me to, like, say, yeah, I want to get out and vote. What the real motivation should be is, okay, over time, I've done my studies in school. I understood what happened and realized, oh, if I don't get up, get out, and say something, these storylines are going to continue to happen.
And that's what I was going to go to. We need to be breeding. Because, like, yes, I am personally motivated to vote by the fact that I have family and friends who were part of the civil rights movement, who most certainly sacrificed a great deal for me to vote. But that's not everybody. A lot of kids these days look at the civil rights movement as if it was ages ago.
Yeah.
And it's
like biblical era.
It's like, oh, like, I don't know nobody like that. I'd be like, well, talk to your great grandma, and I promise they'll be able to give you some stories. But
you probably got an uncle you probably got an uncle who dealt with being a Black Panther or was along those lines. Like, you don't know because our stories don't get told.
But when it comes to our educational system, like, when it comes to our educational systems, we need to stop teaching our histories from the perspective of it being so distant and start teaching history that is relevant to current times in terms of, like, hey, yo, so, like, these are the things that are currently functioning in our government system.
Yeah.
And how do you like the way that they're functioning?
Our
like,
government
instance,
may never do that.
Like I was mad at Michelle Obama because Michelle Obama took carbonated soda out of schools, right? I was mad because I was a kid during this time, and she took this whole healthy initiative, and next thing you know, my vending machines ain't got Sprite no more. So I'm like, fam, what's happening?
What were they replaced with?
And at 16 at the time, I can't vote. Yeah. But I'm like, if I had a vote, I would have voted the unhealthy route. And I'm like, I want that. But nobody ever talked to me about why that happened. I had to find out secondhand significantly later.
Yeah.
Right, there's a lot of legislation that ends up impacting these kids that they don't know about. They think it's so distant. Be like, man, none of that's touching me. Right. When it's like, well, hey, guess what? Like, our laws around health insurance and employers' responsibilities with health insurance is dictated by states and federal legislation. Guess what? You're going to be going into the workforce very soon. Yeah. And if you're working part-time at McDonald's and they don't provide you health insurance and you get a toothache and they now fire you because you took days off because you don't earn the same amount of days off when you're a part-time employee versus a full-time employee and aren't granted those benefits, and now you don't have the money to be able to pay for your rent versus paying for the toothache. Now we're looking at a situation where it's like, man, this is unfair, but what can I do about it? Yeah. And they don't know anything that they can do about it when they actually have power to have say.
Yeah. Well,
Can I make a point that'll piss off a lot of people?
Yes.
Piss them off, please.
So I'm sick to death of this idea of, like, I'm a revolutionary, I don't vote, or things along that nature. You can look for that change that you're trying to make, and you can look for that and vote at the same in time. Just because you vote doesn't mean that you're not allowed to, like, fight the government.
There's only one revolutionary in history that I will give. Maybe it might be more because American penal system is a motherfucker. However, that's Detroit Red Malcolm X. It's the only one I give a pass, like, because he was behind bars, but he was still a revolutionary in the fact that he opened his own mind, knowledge, right? And then used it to open up the minds of others and was killed for doing that.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you fight it from the inside and the outside at the same time?
Yeah, true.
Like, if you could put the people you want in power, that's what America does to other nations.
Yeah.
That's what America did to itself in its starting.
Why not do the same thing that you're looking to do right back to it?
And once again, to chime this conversation back towards what's popping off in Iran, my thoughts and prayers are out to the country of Iran and everything that's going on there, because its citizens are going to end up being impacted more than the government. Yeah. Same thing that's going to be happening to the soldiers who are going on our behalf to go out there. They're going to be the ones who are dying. They're going to be the ones who are sacrificing their lives, who are going to end up not coming back home to their family, their loved ones, because they're going somewhere that they may not even want to go, but on the behalf of a country that is sending them there.
Yeah.
And same thing with these militias who are going to be fighting, who are going to be dying because they are massively outgunned. Mm-hmm. And for all my folks who are concerned about World War III, I mean, like, I'm not uber concerned. I mean, like, when it comes to militaristic understanding, I have a lot of family in military, and they're like, oh, like, if people want to have a guns war, then, I mean, like, the U.S. has the one up on
the whole world.
The whole world when it comes to this concept. Doesn't mean that we won't have casualties, but to be ballsy enough for somebody to try and bring something here to the States is a very loose concept, in my opinion, at this point.
I put it to like people who may be lamest in their thought process. That's like going to the local leader of the Bloods and saying, bruh, I'm bringing shit to your door, and all you have is a fucking 22. Mm-hmm. He's going to shoot you, your cousin, and whoever else is around you with that 22. Why? Because he has an AK. One of his homies probably got a Uzi. Mm-hmm. Somebody got a sawed-off shotgun.
You're not leaving that house.
You're not leaving that house. Like, that's just what it is. So if you're gonna step to America in that notion, like America in the arms race, it's only two nations I'm afraid of, and that's China and Russia.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, and this is once again. Like my earlier statements about calling Donald Trump an idiot, I am sincerely sorry about that. And the whole reason why I am is because I'm trying to be mindful of the fact that everything that I say and do has to be representing of the God that I love and serve. Mm-hmm. And if I stoop down to his level for the sake of being petty and getting back at him, then that is me not being the person who I know I am to be. But I'm going
Can
to
I
say...
ask you a quick question?
Yep.
Why do you keep apologizing for that? Because I'm unapologetically, I have no respect for this man. Mm-hmm. I know I'm not supposed to pass judgment. However, my judgment of this man is he's stupid. Period, point blank. However, do you feel like, and my question is, do you feel like it is wrong for us to essentially call the kettle black? Because I'm quite sure he can look at me and say, I'm stupid. Mm-hmm. I'm quite sure he can, and honestly, if he did, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. That's just your opinion. And God the one that got the end to say at the end of the day.
And I completely understand that. For me, I look at it in this regard. I will judge you by your actions and your character, and I will judge those actions and character. But I also want to give space and room for people to become better persons, better versions of themselves. Whether or not this old dog will learn a new trick, is yet to be seen. And if I'm being honest, it's very doubtful that he ever will. Right?
Please be like the judge in Messiah.
But here's the thing. In this regard, when I talk about this, I know people who still deem me to be the same person I was 5 years ago. Yeah. They look at me and say, oh, Brandon's a liar. Because 5 years ago, I was a damn good liar. I'm still a damn good liar now. But I've grown and I elect to not be that person anymore. Mm-hmm. But people still call me that, as opposed to calling my actions the intent of a liar. And so I'm trying to have that distinction between the words that I use about his actions and his character versus him as a person.
I think that's beautiful. However, we live in a world, like you said, people are still going to judge you off that, right? So in that, like, I believe that we have people who's going to hold those judgments, and all we can do is allow them to hold those judgments and move forward. Because the thing about being a human is you're always changing. Yeah. You change from the day you're born to the day you die. From 1 to 2, you go from docile, can't do nothing, to rambunctious, I'm crazy. From like 2 to 22, you go through a million changes. One big one in the middle of that is puberty, and your whole mind changes once you're in puberty. Then, like, once you become an adolescent, your mind changes again. Like different stages of life brings different changes. So if the people who you are around on your everyday can't see those changes happening for you, then honestly, they don't necessarily need to be around.
Yeah, but I really appreciate your apology, though.
But Brandon. I do get that. I do get.
I think that like you apologizing, saying like you don't agree with this man, but then admitting that like, okay, I just stooped down to his level. Like that just shows who you are as a person. That says like I like just seeing that transformation just happening in this episode, like being like I'm so like upset and angry at this person and just calling him names and stuff, and then being like, okay, I did that, like I own that, and then you admitting it and then like letting that go, right? Like that shows more about like how much of a higher platform than you are, like morally anyways, compared to like 45. And I like appreciate you apologizing, like being like, this is out of character for me, like owning up to that, like personal accountability and responsibility of being like, I stooped down to this guy's level and I'm apologizing because that's not who I am anymore. You know,
I was just talking about this, like the idea of hate and how, like, if I hate you, Aaron,
What's up, yes?
you will never feel it.
yeah.
I can hate you. I can sit here. I can sit in my room. I can You'll never feel it. All I'm doing is damage to myself and making myself a lesser person.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that, like, if you want to punch me in the face, I'm going to defend myself.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, those are two different things.
Right.
Like, I can call out you can call out something that's wrong without having to degrade your own self and your own sense of self. But I see exactly what you're talking about.
Like, and for
at
me,
the same time.
for me personally, like me calling Trump stupid is not me degrading myself because at the end of the day, like you just said, he can call me just as many names as I can call him, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's not going to get either one of us anywhere, right? Yeah. But my reasoning for like just saying it is because that's my truth about him. That's what I see. Yeah. I see a stupid man in office. I see a man who's incompetent, right? And I'm not saying that like if I met him in person, he wasn't in office, and he said something that I probably wouldn't still call him that. Like I probably would still call him incompetent. But at the same time, I still hold the space that, like you were saying, if he was to grow and change, I can see that too. Like people, his best friend, Kanye West, right? I say best friend like this because I don't think he's really his best friend. But anyway, like Kanye West, people are like, bro, Kanye is retarded. He has changed. Why, right? Yeah. And if you look at Kanye's track record, musically at least, like, and the topics that he speaks on musically, like, his political ideology does not necessarily line up.
Yeah.
But with that, like we said, he's a human. So I can call Kanye stupid. I don't think he necessarily is. I think he's more manipulated than stupid. But it leaves that room for change. Like,
and here's the reason why I create the distinction for myself. And I say it, and this is gonna be a whole podcast, because a majority of people who delve into the poetic experience are more left leaning. Are we correct on that?
Yes.
On that assessment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of who I've met so far.
Yeah, of who I've met historically.
I'm gonna be honest,
time, right?
Like, to your point earlier in the earlier podcast when you was speaking about like you being an Asian American woman in poetry, and you were saying like you have a few friends, like that is a rarity. When like my viewpoint of poets, like super left leaning, is LGBT and Black people. That's it. Like for the most part, like if you're not in one of those ballparks, like you're probably not a poet.
and so on my end, this is gonna be a whole nother podcast. We have a horrible culture in the left leaning side that does not allow people to be more than what they once were. And a lot of
echo
people
chamber.
like look at dig up tweets from people from 10 plus years ago.
Kevin
and
Hart.
Say, oh, yo, you're
Call
the
out
same
culture.
person you were when you wrote them tweets, despite changes in action, changes in discussion, apologies, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Which is gonna be a
Grammy
whole
community.
podcast we talk about that.
Yeah.
Because and that's why I'm trying to be be mindful. And so I'm gonna dive into my last spiel, and then I'll let our closing remarks go. When we talk about the impeachment, when we talk about Iran, the reason why this whole topic even came about is because being a U.S. citizen, we need to be mindful of the fact that we are not the sole proprietor or owner of this world. There are other countries that have ideologies, beliefs, ideas about how this world should function, how their country should function, and we are not the people who need to be dictating the temperature globally, because we don't have the best interests of everybody globally. We don't even have the best interests of everybody who's here locally. We need to be able to, if we're really talking about, and I'm talking to, once again, to this Christian base who voted this man in, if we're going to be quite honest with the world and quite honest with ourselves, we need to be able to tell people, like, yo, you have the free will to believe and choose whatever you so desire, because God gave you that right to be able to do so. And in that, I'm going to let you guys function in that. And I'm going to be a silent lover of you. And I'm also going to be a person who comes alongside and says, hey, I will help in ways that you deem worthy, as well as ways that fit the ideology that I serve. Would I ever go into an abortion clinic and go do one? No, because I don't believe in that concept. But would I ever be the person who would like go to an abortion clinic and hold up signs and be like, "You're going to hell for this"?
Or bomb
No,
it, yeah.
like, or bomb it or do any of those things? No, like those aren't like but people look at these things as the only two options. There's a route to patriotism that also does not root itself in being able to hate other countries and hate the people who are there and the way that they function, because people love Asian food but hate Asian people.
Yeah,
People
that's
love
the
Mexican
truth.
food and hate Mexican people.
People love
And
black music and hate black people.
Like they love these cultures but hate the people in which these cultures derive from, and that's the whole basis of gentrification, another podcast that we'll dive into as well. And so but we as Americans, and in particular us the Christian folk and my Christian folk who ended up voting this man in, we really need to get mindful of the fact that our route, although we may believe it to be the one that is ordained by God, is not the one that the world has to subject itself to. It's not. It's not the end all be all for everybody. And they have the choice to make that choice for themselves that it's not. And we have to respect and embrace and love people, even when they don't make the decision that we would personally make. Because there are a lot of Christians who make decisions that I would never make. And we're believing in the same God,
Right.
yet alone people from different cultures, people from different religions, like there are whole cultures who don't eat cow. I just went to India earlier today. You know what I mean? Like we have to be mindful of these things. And the moment that we're not mindful of these things is the moment we become nothing more than another loud Pharisee screaming out to the world, telling them that they're not adhering to this law, when we've never been run by law since Jesus came. We've been run by grace, and we need to be graceful to the remainder of the world.
Yeah. Wow. How do you follow up with that?
I mean, so I'll be the buffer. But here's the thing. 2 quick stories. Anthony Bourdain traveled the whole world. He's done documentaries all over the place, documenting different cultures. He said the nicest culture he's ever met, and he's someone who calls it as it is. If he's in a place that's treating him like shit, like he says.
So
he said,
Trump's stupid, he's stupid.
He's stupid. Like and this is, rest in peace. He's passed. But here's the thing. He said the Iranian people are the nicest people he ever met. To me, as someone who's traveled the whole world, experienced other cultures, the way that we should experience other cultures, not by like, I'm American, here's my American culture, but like, if you're willing to, let me in. He said they're the nicest people he ever met. Now, you look at the Iranian government's reaction to us bombing their general, a general who we praised in 2015, our government military praised in 2015 and then turned around.
Whoa.
Like, yeah.
Under different leadership.
But you still have those military generals. They were the ones who praised him. And we bombed him. And the Iranian government said, we aren't after the American people. Your president is an idiot. And for a government to look at that situation where they could easily do exactly what America does and just go, you know what, all of you, we're going to burn everything, and to go, you know what, we need to have pause, we need to have grace in this, and just say, we're not after the American people, we're after the president.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about the country itself.
Yeah.
Facts. Like even deeper still, if you want to look at Iran and American relations, an economic standpoint, Iran could hurt our nation just as significantly as us sending another bomb that way by saying, hey, I'm going to tell my homies that surround me and my homies that own stuff here in this country, I ain't sending you shit. I'm not giving you no oil. I'm not giving you anything that you make the majority of your products in your country with. And see how you like that. Yes, America has its own oil reserves. Yes, we do. However, we don't have half as many as they have in the Middle East, right? And with that, like, it's like, yo, they can hurt us just as deep, and they still haven't done that. They haven't done it for, what year did you say we first went over there?
1953.
1953. It is now 2020.
Yeah.
Do the math.
We're already part of the world economy. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
Why are we trying to back out?
Right. So they're like, yo, we're not going to back out. We're not going to hurt your pockets like that. Yeah. We cool. We just going to show you, hey, we can do the same thing, and we're going to low-key blow up stuff you have on our soil. Yeah. Not even U.S. soil. They didn't do it Japan with Pearl Harbor. Yeah. They said, I'm going to hit what's on our soil.
And did you hear that there's some theories that they missed the base on purpose?
There's no casualties. Yeah. They had to miss that mug on purpose. Because as we know, most U.S. bases on foreign soil are twice as large as they are on U.S. soil.
And suspected that the president actually knew, and he utilized that information and still allowed it to happen for the sake of being able to spur us to be able to go do this thing and help us win the war.
They actually didn't even do anything until we shot first. Yeah. So it's like, yo, as a people, as American people, we have a responsibility. We have primaries coming up. Yeah. We have the election coming in November.
And don't just vote for the president. You think that all this stuff just happens. Your local government has a great deal to do with your day-to-day versus the federal government. If you care about how your school system functions, you need to be at them school board meetings. If you care about how your state stuff function, you need to be voting for a good governor and good representatives on your county and state level. If you care about how your city functions and whether or not the roads are getting fixed in these ghetto neighborhoods that most of us be living in, then you need to make sure that changes. We need to start changing these red line districts because folks is not being able to get grocery stores into hoods. We need to change.
Erase the lines, fellas and ladies that's in office. Erase them lines. Like, y'all just drew them shits with a fucking red Sharpie. Literally. You drew them shits with a red Sharpie, bro. Like, my apartment is in, I wouldn't say it's a rough neighborhood. However, it's next to one of the nicest neighborhoods in town.
Yeah, he's not in the district of the nicest neighborhood in town, and he's across the street.
Facts. My daughter will have to go to one of the worst schools in town. If she still lives here. Mind you, we're not living here in a few years. But still.
Like we need to be voting. We need to be voting federally, state-wise, locally. We need to be voting on all levels. So that way we can make sure, but not just voting. Because I'm tired of people just voting.
Being an informed citizen. Fuck just voting. Fuck just voting. Fuck thinking about party lines. All of that stuff. Be an informed citizen. Straight up. Because being an informed citizen covers more than just voting. It informs you on consumerist issues like with food deserts in these towns like Stockton. It deals with knowing that our nation is not necessarily doing the right thing for you, because while you're being informed and you're doing the research for yourself to see that, hey, his move was uncalled for, all the way. He didn't even listen to his own gut. He listened to his Secretary of State and said, hey, let's go blow this up. When 2015, we had a different president who listened to his people and said, no, we don't have to fight Iran. And 2015, we had some tensions with Iran.
And let's keep it a buck. Like, none of us here at this, as much as critique as we just had right now, we all live here. We want the best for this country.
Right. Like I'm a patriot. Like at the end of the day,
like people so oftentimes think that when you critique something, it's because you hate it. No. If I didn't care, if I hated something, I wouldn't put energy towards it. I would allow for it to continue to be mediocre, and I allow for it to continue to spiral further and further down.
There's a quote I've been hearing for like the last 2 weeks, and it's truth without love is like, as something, it's like brutality, right? And then love without truth is like humility. And I feel like this is so true because you my brother, right? Brandon, you my bro. If I never told you the truth about like maybe a disagreement we had, or even not necessarily even a disagreement about something like I see you holding yourself short on, right? You will never grow as a human being. Why? Because the person who loves on you as a brother is not telling you. Now, that can go, and patriotism is nothing but love for your nation. So if I can't sit here and say my nation has failed me in this manner, and we need to figure out a way to fix it. I don't love this nation. I don't love the people that I say I love if I don't stand up and do that. And vice versa. Thank you for that. Yes. And if I'm gonna tell somebody the truth and don't love them, all I'm doing is a disservice to that person. That's like your girlfriend being pissed off at you and you have some type of bodily dysfunction or something like that. Like your girlfriend be like, nigga, that's why you got 13 toes. Mm-hmm. Out of hatred. Like saying that, yeah, that may be the truth about you, but that is petty and wrong. Yeah. So at the end of the day, be an informed citizen, act in love and in truth. Yeah. Because like
I think, going off of that, like
that's where we at now.
Just being socially engaged and politically engaged and just making sure that we're actually participating in the world that we live in the community that we live in. And it's not just like about voting, but it's also in our interpersonal actions with each other. Mm-hmm. It's also about sharing our truth and sharing our stories so that the mainstream narrative that's being told is actually the correct one, because we're trying to just share our stories and share who we are, and the fact that like humanity is very multifaceted, and it's not like just my way or the highway, it's our way, so we can go and move forward and push together and grow as a community.
So we can make a new way.
No, and I don't mean to extend the final thoughts for another whole podcast, but there's ownership that we have to take in the fact that everything that's happening in the Middle East, that what we've done to countries for years, we are complicit in. Yeah, it is us. It's so easy, even if you don't, just because you don't like what the president did, to go well, I didn't have anything to do with that. The fact is, it's a representative government. Yeah. The people we voted for, the people who are in office right now represent us.
If you show up into that country and you say that I'm an American citizen, they're going to automatically think about him.
Well, and even more than that, it is a representative government. They are representing you.
So to those black people who was on Facebook,
the Iran, you are responsible in part and participle to that. Your tax money goes to it. Yep. Why wouldn't we push?
So to those black people who was on Facebook talking about Trump did that shit, don't kill me. Sorry, you're complicit in that.
Yeah. And just to close this out, man, let us, as stated, let's be more mindful. Mm-hmm. Let's really begin to think more about the holistic picture of who we're trying to be, because there's no ability yes, we are all individual people, but humanity was not created and designed for the sake of individuality solely. Mm-hmm. We were made for communal. We're made for community.
We're social people.
And being made for community, we have to be mindful that our community is going to be diverse. Mm-hmm. Our community is going to be, as stated, multifaceted. And we have to be willing to not only just tolerate, but love and embrace the fact that people come with different ideologies, different thought processes, different ways of looking at the world. Because it isn't, I'll say this, everybody has a different aspect of who God is lying inside of them. And it is on us to be able to see that, to be able to grow and learn from. True. I've learned so much from being able to look at David and say, the way that David cares for people has changed the way that I've cared for people. The way that Stacy is so caring for the people around her. And when I say that, I mean Stacy sacrifices time, effort, and even her own individual desires for the sake of family and friends to be able to make sure that they're good. Mm-hmm. That makes me question, how am I loving the folks around me? And to be able to say that and be able to grow from that. My man Aaron and his passion for everything that he does. My man wore blue for his son's birthday and asked me to wear blue for his son's birthday. His son live in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Didn't even get to see me. I didn't even get a video chat with my son on his birthday. Mm-hmm. I talked to him.
But it's his son's favorite color. Mm-hmm. So we wore blue for that day. That type of mindfulness. We need not just to have about the things that we think are particularly affecting us, because everything that's going on is affecting you either directly or indirectly. And that may not affect you now, but may end up affecting the people you love and care about in the future.
Also, that's the cutest shit I've heard in a long time.
and so with that,
Well, it gets cuter as a dad.
and so with that, y'all, this has been Poets and Politics, man. We love y'all. Our question for this particular podcast is, what is an issue going on locally in whatever city you in that you care about that we should be highlighting in our next podcast that we talk about politics? Because I don't want to talk about a federal thing next time. I would like to talk about several different local politics that are going on, whether it be here in California, if you're in New Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, whatever's popping, hit us up, let us know. Make sure that you comment down below and that you leave an article that we can reference as well.
Comment, and there's nothing wrong with leaving references.
So we love y'all. We care about y'all. And mindfulness, word of the month.
Yeah.
We out of here.
Yay.
Ba, 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 ba.